Welcome to Naughty Relationship Stories, where passion, drama, secrets, and unexpected twists come alive. I never thought I'd be the kind of woman who strays. Not because I'm especially virtuous, just because my life is too ordinary for scandal. My name's Claire. I'm 32, a stay-at-home wife with a quiet life, a decent husband, and a garden that gets more attention than I do. I make breakfast, do laundry, a bit of meal prep. And then I scroll social media wondering why I feel so numb inside. We moved into this suburban cul-de-sac 2 years ago. It's the kind of place where people wave when they walk their dogs and host block parties with lukewarm potato salad. Safe. Predictable. And then he moved in next door. Ethan. The firefighter with rough hands and sad eyes. Everyone knew his story. His wife died in a car accident last year. He came here to start over, though the way he stared at the empty swing set in his backyard made it clear he hadn't figured out how. We'd exchange polite hellos. Neighbor stuff, nothing more. Until one afternoon he helped me carry a broken shelf out to the curb. His hand brushed mine. I flinched, not because I was uncomfortable but because I wasn't. Something shifted in that brief moment. Something I didn't dare name. My husband, Jason, had started working late as of recent. Nothing dramatic. His firm just got awarded a major contract by the city, so he was a little checked out. Always on calls even when he was home. Sometimes I felt like we were falling apart. But I wanted to believe that this was just a phase. A necessary sacrifice for our family. But there was a void I couldn't fill and would lead to something sinister. And then came the rainstorm. Jason was out of town and the thunder was loud enough to shake the windows. I saw Ethan outside struggling with a tarp over his motorcycle. I ran out. No coat, just instinct. He laughed when he saw me. Claire, you're gonna catch your death out here. I was worried you'd blow away. We wrestled the tarp down together, soaking wet and breathless. The kind of laugh that leaves your guard down. And when it was over he looked at me, really looked. Thank you, he said. His voice cracked a little. You're the first person who's made me laugh in a while. That night I couldn't sleep. Not because I did something wrong. But because I wanted to. Before I knew what was going on. Our friendship took a different turn. It started with small things. A wave when I brought in the mail. A nod while he was mowing his lawn. A smile that lingered too long to be just neighborly. And then came the text. Harmless, really. Hey, you left your trash bin out. Want me to roll it back? Storm coming. Close your windows, neighbor. I told myself it was nothing. Jason saw them too and barely blinked. He trusted me. Why wouldn't he? We'd never talked about boundaries because we'd never needed to. But trust isn't a wall. It's a door left open. And Ethan knew exactly how to knock. The next time we spoke face to face, I was trimming the bushes in the front yard. Sweat was dripping down my spine. I hated yard work, but I needed the distraction. Ethan came out shirtless. Just to water the lawn, not to tempt me or to show me the kind of body my husband once had, before time and routine softened all his edges. At least that was what I told myself. So I stared. And he noticed. You should let me help with that, he said, walking over. You're gonna end up scratched to hell. I can handle a few thorns. He smiled. I bet you can. There was something in his voice that made me ache. Not just between my legs, though I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel that too. It was deeper. I felt seen. Like he noticed the woman underneath the routine. The one I'd buried beneath aprons and errands. Later that day he knocked on my door. He held a glass container in both hands. Stew, he said. Too much for one person. Thought you might want some. Jason was still at work. I told myself I shouldn't let him in. But I did. We ate in the kitchen. Silence wasn't awkward, it felt close. He leaned back in the chair, eyes scanning me. You ever think about what your life would be like if you hadn't settled down so soon? My breath caught. Sometimes, I admitted. But it doesn't mean I regret it. Doesn't mean you don't either. His words hung in the air like smoke. I looked away first. He didn't push. But when he left that night he brushed my shoulder on the way out. Light. Casual and intentional. My skin burned where he touched me. That night Jason came home tired. He kissed my cheek, asked what was for dinner, and fell asleep before I finished brushing my teeth. I stood at the sink staring at my reflection. Married. Safe. And comfortable. But my body still buzzed with Ethan's touch. And deep down I already knew. This wasn't going to stop. It was the middle of the week, Wednesday maybe. The kind of day where nothing happens. Jason had been working late shifts again, coming home more exhausted than ever. I'd stopped asking how his day was. And he'd stopped asking anything at all. But Ethan, he never stopped noticing me. That afternoon I was folding laundry when his message came through. Boring day. You. I replied before I thought twice. The same, I think my brain is melting. He responded with a selfie. Him shirtless. Covered in ash and soot, probably from some emergency call. His eyes were tired, but there was a smirk tugging at the corner of his lips. Come over for a drink. Just one. You look like you need something stronger than tea. I stared at the screen longer than I should have. My heart thumped so loud I could hear it echo in my ears. I told myself it's just a drink. And then I was standing at his front door. His house smelled like cedarwood and something faintly smoky. Masculine. Wine okay? He asked. I nodded and he poured. We sat on the couch, not quite touching, but the air between us pulsed with something unspoken. I've been thinking about you, he said suddenly. My stomach tightened. Don't say that. Why not? He turned to me, eyes intense. I'm not trying to ruin your life. I just can't pretend anymore. I'm married, I whispered like I needed to remind myself more than him. He leaned in, slow and deliberate. I know. And if he made you feel even half the things I want to make you feel, I wouldn't stand a chance. I could have stood up and walked away. But I didn't. Because for the first time in months, maybe years, I didn't feel invisible. I felt wanted. He reached up and tucked a piece of hair behind my ear. His fingers graced my cheek. My breath caught. And then he kissed me. Soft, lingering, and searching. I kissed him back. Not because I meant to, but because I needed to. When I finally pulled away, my chest was heaving. His eyes were searching mine, asking a question without speaking. I stood up, my knees weak. I have to go. He didn't try to stop me. But as I stepped out into the night air, one thing was clear. I had just crossed a line I couldn't uncross. It started raining not too long after. The rain had started around 4 p.m., a soft, steady drizzle that coated everything in silver and silence. Jason had come home early, exhausted and half asleep on the couch before I'd even finished unloading the dishwasher. I watched him from the kitchen. My husband, completely unaware that something inside me had already come undone. I should have stayed inside. I should have curled up next to him, played the part of the loving wife. But I kept hearing it, a soft clatter from behind the house. Metal on wood. A fence maybe? Or a bang. I stepped out back without thinking, rain misting my skin. And there he was. Ethan. In a dark hoodie, drenched. Hands tightening a loose panel on his backyard fence. A few tools scattered at his feet. He looked up when he saw me. You're gonna melt, he said with a grin. You're one to talk. I tried to laugh, but it caught in my throat. The rain made his eyes look darker, his jaw sharper. Drops of water clung to his lashes. His shirt was soaked through, clinging to every hard line of his chest. He stood up slowly, wiping his hands on his jeans. Didn't mean to wake anyone. You didn't, I said. Jason's passed out. Long shift. Something flickered between us. Familiar now. Dangerous. We didn't move. The rain softened around us like the world was holding its breath. I shouldn't be here, I whispered. He stepped closer. But you are. His voice was low. Calm. But his eyes, they were starving. He raised his hand, slow, deliberate, and touched my jaw with the back of his fingers. My skin lit up like a live wire. I tilted into it before I could stop myself. I think about you all the time, he murmured. When you walk barefoot through your garden. That robe you wear in the morning. The way your lips twitch when you lie. I shivered. I'm not lying now. Then tell me to stop. I opened my mouth. But nothing came out. And that was enough. He kissed me harder this time. Desperate. My fingers dug into his soaked hoodie as he backed me up against the wooden wall of the house. The rain soaking through my clothes, cooling the fire under my skin. His hands explored like he'd memorized me already. My body arched into him, lips parted, breath trembling. We didn't make it inside. He turned me gently, my palms pressing against the siding. His hands slid beneath my shirt, up my ribs, down my waist. I gasped when I felt his lips on my neck, then his voice. You sure? I nodded, not trusting my voice. And right there behind the house with rain pouring and guilt screaming somewhere far away, I let him have me. Slow at first. Hungry next. My moans were swallowed by the storm, my nails scraped the wet wood, and for a moment, I forgot who I was. I wasn't the wife. I wasn't the neighbor. I was just a woman finally feeling something real. When it was over, we stood in the quiet, soaked, breathless, shaking. He kissed my shoulder, then my mouth, soft and slow. Like a promise. I walked back inside alone. Jason was still asleep on the couch, the TV flickering in the dark. I stood in the hallway, heart pounding, soaked to the bone. And no part of me felt clean. I barely slept that night. I laid in bed next to Jason, listening to the rain on the roof and the quiet rise and fall of his chest. He hadn't moved since I got back inside, just moved from the couch to the bed, shifting in his sleep, arm flopping across my waist out of habit, not desire. And I lay there, aching. Not with shame but with need. The next morning I woke early. Jason had already left for work, leaving behind the faint smell of cologne and the empty silence he always did. I stood at the sink, sipping lukewarm coffee, eyes fixed on the fence separating our yards. My skin still tingled from the night before. My thighs still ached in the best way. But it wasn't enough. I texted Ethan. "You home?" His reply came seconds later. "Yes." Back gates open. I didn't even change. I threw on a hoodie, slipped out the back door like a thief, and crept through the dew-soaked grass. Leaning against the counter in his kitchen, still shirtless, coffee in hand. His eyes met mine, slow, intense, already undressing me. I walked straight into him, our mouths crashing together like we'd been holding our breath. There was no hesitation this time. No fear. Just hunger. My hands were everywhere, his chest, his neck, the waistband of his sweats. He lifted me onto the counter, knocking over a dish, neither of us caring. My legs wrapped around his waist, dragging him closer, desperate to feel him again. "You came back," he whispered, breath ragged. "I never left," I murmured. His mouth was on my neck, my collarbone, my chest. I yanked my hoodie off, heat rushing to my skin as he kissed down my stomach like he needed to taste every part of me. This time it wasn't rushed or frantic. It was intentional. He laid me back on the counter, his hands gripping my thighs like he was reclaiming something that had always belonged to him. I gasped when he slid inside me, slow, deep, deliberate. My fingers dug into his back, nails leaving marks. This wasn't about loneliness anymore. It was desire. Desire for the way he looked at me like I was the only thing that mattered. For the way he moved, confident and rough and real. For the way he made me feel seen, desired, consumed. Jason used to make love to me like I was fragile. But Ethan? He ravished me without restraint. After we collapsed in his bed, tangled in sheets and heat and guilt we didn't speak of. He ran his fingers along my shoulder. "You don't have to say a word," he said quietly. But the truth was I wanted to. Because with Ethan I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Alive. We lay there for a while. Sweat cooling, breaths slowing, the silence between us thick with everything we weren't saying. I should have gotten up, pulled my hoodie back on, slipped out the back door like a regretful secret. But I didn't move. Neither did he. Ethan's hand was still resting on my bare hip, fingers tracing lazy circles into my skin. I stared at the ceiling, chest rising and falling, trying to convince myself that I hadn't just crossed another line. That this was it, this was the last time. But then he turned to me. His eyes were dark and heavy, like the storm from the night before never really ended. "You should go," he said softly, but he didn't let go of me. "I know," I whispered. But I didn't move. And that was all it took. He rolled over me in one slow motion, pinning me beneath him, his mouth finding mine again. Deeper this time, rougher, laced with a hunger that hadn't eased, only grown sharper. His hands were all over me. Familiar now. Addictive. "Just one more time," he said, lips brushing against my jaw. "Let me feel you again before you go back to pretending." I moaned at the truth of it. There was no resistance left in me. I arched beneath him, my legs parting without thought, hips meeting his with an urgency that made us both groan. This time wasn't careful. It wasn't romantic. It was messy. Raw. My fingers clawed at his back as he buried himself inside me again. The headboard knocked the wall. My breath hitched with every thrust. The sweat, the gasps, the sound of our bodies colliding. It all blurred together like a fever dream. I came undone again. Harder. Deeper. And when it was over, I didn't cry. In fact, I enjoyed every bit of it. I just laid there staring up at the ceiling, my body still trembling, my soul torn between guilt and desire. Ethan kissed my shoulder. "You'll be back," he said, half a promise, half a dare. I didn't answer. But we both knew the truth. Thanks for watching. And don't forget to subscribe for more spicy stories.